Welcome to the first episode of the Black Briefing, where we give our unfiltered takes of everything that's going on in Indy, and especially things that really impact the Black community. I'm one of your hosts, Samantha Douglas.
I'm Wildstyle for sure.
And I'm Greg Merriweather.
And we're here, like I just said, to give you our unfiltered take on everything that's been going on. It'll be a once a month podcast. So we're going to do our best to run down the things that have happened this month that are super important. Obviously, our first month being Black History Month, too. Look at us.
Look at us.
Just on point. But we're going to get right into it with our first topic. So our first topic is Lawrence police brutality. Lawrence police officer beat a Black man outside of the Sunnyside Walmart last week. I know we all saw the video. Super unfortunate, obviously disgusting to watch. And even after, like, for a lot of those who don't know, like, we see a lot of body-worn camera videos, things like that. Super disgusting to see somebody who's not even fighting on the ground being beaten like that. And then super disappointed to see, you know, all we get from Lawrence Police is that he's on administrative leave.
Yeah.
So what are you guys' thoughts, you guys' takes?
Well, at least they didn't shoot him this time like they did all the other people. Because, I mean, IMPD gets all of the credit, which, I mean, IMPD deserves a lot of credit, but pound for pound, Lawrence gets down.
That's
like
bars. He's giving you bars.
I mean, I've looked into some of this stuff, and there was one time they were supposed to charge the officer, and we thought the officer was going to get charged, and then never heard anything else about it. Especially with Lawrence Police specifically, they have zero community accountability. Mm-hmm. Even like super impactful relationships where somebody can hold them accountable. Like, every single time something like this comes up, I realize quickly that there's not even a space for, like, where do we go when they do something? I know.
Like, for IMPD, when they do something, we have the activation calls. A lot of us have the contact information of IMPD leadership. Yeah. With Lawrence, it's like, who do we go to? Who do we call?
I agree. I think that, it's interesting because when you look at Lawrence, it's the government we claim to want. It's the governing system we claim to want. You have a Black mayor. You have a Black police chief. You have a council that has Black people on it. And at this point, it's like you see this type of crime take place, and I call it a crime because I believe it is. And now you say, what do you do now? How does when does the rubber meet the road? And how are we going to see the type of justice that we believe comes with having us in position of power?
That's a fact.
I mean, that's the issue. I do know the police chief because he was the library board president that we were vice president and when all the protests were going on, and
Jesus Christ,
he said
locking people up for bringing books back late.
And so it's a room full of activists, old ladies and old men. And he said that we were intimidating them and that they had a large police presence. And so that, he ended up leaving that and he became the Lawrence police chief right after that.
Right after that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
So he was on the board.
Yeah, he was. I think he might have been like an assistant chief or something before while he was on the board. Jesus. But yeah, he left. He not too long after that they made him.
So he's a new chief.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a new chief. But I'm kind of with Greg though. It's like, what in this? I'm not going to say. Obviously, I don't know a lot about him, but I will say this though: what good is it to have people that look like us in places of power and positions of power if they're not using it to improve the quality of life of people that look like them?
I think that's even though we're talking about Lawrence, I think that's one of the bigger issues that we have just in the nation is for cities that like Chicago that have had Black mayors and Black chiefs and predominantly Black council and still see, blight, crime, all the things that take place. So it's a big challenge, but I'm interested to see what Lawrence does because, there's a lot of hype and party around getting the position.
It sure is.
Yep.
But now it's like, okay, did those people make the right choice? And after this, will they make this choice again if it's done wrongfully?
Yeah. And Lawrence too, like, I think you made the point before, like when we were talking about this before, that Lawrence is a small town too. So there's a lot of things that kind of fly under the radar, because I know their city is already having a bunch of challenges right now with their mayor's office and things like that. And so
checks bouncing.
You know, so it's like, and you know, this is documented stuff. You guys can read the articles. As a matter of fact, we'll make sure that we put the articles in the description. But that is that's one of those challenges, is like how can we, including ourselves, hold people accountable so that they can be effective in these roles, regardless of what they look like, what their gender is, with any of that. Like, we need you to be effective for our people. And I feel like that's where we're at now. It's just like, I don't care, red, blue, yellow, purple, male, female, non-binary. I don't give a fuck what you are. If you gonna do right by our people, then I'm for you. And if you're not, you gotta go.
It was interesting. I had said some stuff live about it. And one of the counselors, Terrell Giles, I believe, is a counselor.
Lawrence.
And Lawrence.
Yeah,
and he's like, these questions should be asked by citizens of Lawrence. And then he took a picture of the chairs in the council meeting, and it was empty. And I was like, listen, if you don't want me to talk about Lawrence, I'll step aside if the people of Lawrence want me to step aside. And people were like, nah, we don't. But it was interesting to see that instead of just embracing the fact that someone brought it to the table, they would rather have it be silent if the citizens are not saying anything, which makes absolutely no sense to me.
That is. I seen criticism too of when he posted that empty room and he was saying nobody came to the meetings. And I just want to put out there too, that is, a lot of things aren't necessarily our fault, but as leaders, they're our responsibility. And so if you show an empty room, if you show an empty Far East Side Community Council meeting, as the president, it may not be my fault, right? And we could say a million times, you know, people aren't interested, they're not doing this and they're not doing that, whatever. At the end of the day, though, it's my responsibility to make sure people are showing up there, that they're educated about how this works, where they should show up. And that would be my pushback. And that's what frustrates me when I see people in leadership. Like, oh, look at this empty room. Oh, well, that is an indictment against you, my friend.
But the other part that I said to him, I said, you know, this is starting to, and Lord forgive me, but I was like, this start to kind of mesh politicians and preachers. I was like, this mentality of come to me,
yes,
as opposed to me coming to you.
That's a fact.
Is so wild to me, because you'll show up when it's time. You'll be in the community when it's time to get elected. But all of a sudden, it's like, now you need to come to me as opposed to me bringing it to you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, get out in the community. If they see if the community sees you more, you know, outside of just running, maybe you'll get some people to get on board with what you're doing to come and support it and help you out with it. But until then, don't complain about people not showing up.
But just to be clear, when somebody's beaten out in front of a Walmart, that room can be empty or filled, but it ain't right, and y'all need to explain what happened.
That's a fact.
Agreed.
That's a fact, and at least apply pressure to your chief to give us quicker results too. I was going to ask y'all this because I don't really know their process. So we have a different process in Indy where our police chief has to recommend for termination. It's a merit board that ultimately makes the decision. We saw that with the Aaron Bailey stuff, right? But with Lawrence, I assume because they're a smaller department, it's probably not like that.
I asked the same question. And
okay,
I said, and I do believe he did say that there's a merit board.
Yeah. Oh, they do have a merit board process.
Yeah, I saw the comment. He said they do.
On my page when I said, I said, do they have? Because I was asking Angela Ganote, and I said, can you find out if they have the same process that IMPD has? And then someone chimed in and said they do.
So that's what we're looking for now. We're looking for a recommendation of termination for this officer because it's insane.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next one because I know we're trying to get through a lot of things quickly. So next topic. Bills that made it versus bills that died. And no, we don't have the time to go through all of them. I'm so sorry. I am going to put a link in the description so you guys can go and look at the list of bills and stuff, look at who put it up and see what happened with it. But today we're going to talk about HB 1136 died. We needed that to die. That was obviously House Bill 1136. And it was the one that would, now that one, what was that one? That was the dissolving of the five.
And I disagree. I think that they should have gone ahead and pushed it and let the charter schools tell them to drop it because that's what would have happened. But anyway.
So 1136, SB 518 lived. Okay. However, I think one of the encouraging things that we saw out of that, and me and you kind of talked about this, was that we seen a lot more Republicans come out against it than we usually see in these kind of bills.
40% of the Senate voted against it.
40%.
And it's got to go back to the Senate.
Yes. And so that is huge. I think we don't talk about this enough, but in the Senate, for example, Democrats are outnumbered 40-10. 40-10.
Can we explain the bill to the listeners?
Yes. So Senate Bill 518 is the one. It will redistribute the tax dollars that IPS gets from property taxes. Actually, 57% of it, I think.
Well, so
operation dollars.
It would cut IPS funding by 57%.
Okay.
They said that would cause them to have to close 20 schools. Mm-hmm. And
6,000 kids lose transportation.
6,000 kids will lose transportation to school every day.
Yeah, so and that money would be redirected to charter schools.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? Okay. Yeah, so that's what 518 was. And honestly, listen, I'm going to take me, Shaka, Black Week, Lamar Holiday, who helped us organize Black Week. We're going to take a little bit of credit for that. Last week, we met with black legislators. Black folks met with
black
Republican legislators. They were white on Monday and Tuesday. But one of the heavy things that we really went hard on was SB 518. And I think seeing that 40% voting against it, I really think that made a difference. So for our ordinary folks who haven't been to the State House yet, we had a few there who had never been to the State House. And so for those people, like going and speaking to these people, it still works. Working across the aisle still works. Talking to folks still works. So I want to encourage y'all to keep talking about that. I don't
like Black Week. I'm just gonna say it.
Anyway,
it sounds like you're only welcome once a week.
You're not welcome that week either.
I mean, let's be honest. I'm like, can we figure out something else? It sounds like
you ain't welcome
different.
that week.
Okay, everybody has judgment, but you see there was results. We don't care about the name. It was just,
I do, words matter.
But shout out to Shaka. It was Shaka's idea. She wanted to do something that was more impactful than like the community days or the things that we just go and hear a presentation and leave. She wanted to set up like closed door meetings where we can actually speak with legislators about specific legislation, and that was a big deal.
It was.
I love it.
It was.
Shout out to Black Week.
Yeah. Yes. Shout out to Black Week and quit hating. And everybody else who was hating too. Okay. Go do something. Like go build something. Have you ever seen that video of that black woman? Like go build something.
Shout out to Black Week.
Anyway. Okay. There was also some home health care bills. We talked to Senator Garton about it.
Yep.
From what we heard, those three bills in particular were only going to impact the medical side of the home health care businesses. So if you are in the non-medical side, those aren't supposed to impact you. But on the other side, it's supposed to cut down on some fraud and some scamming that was going on. Obviously, I'll link it so you guys can read more about it. And then there was one DEI bill that was withdrawn, but they just put that language into another bill. So
and that's a common tactic.
That's a common tactic. So those are actually still alive and thriving, apparently. So last week they flipped. So for y'all that don't know the process, you have Senate bills, you have House bills. After they all discuss them in their committees and stuff and then vote on them, they will then, the ones that pass, will flip over to the other side. So Senate bills went to the House bills went to the Senate, and then they will flip back again before they're ultimately either approved or not. So just to let y'all know, that's where we're at. They've switched. So you can definitely track those bills on the IGA website, the Indiana General Assembly website, but I'm going to link that in the description.
Awesome.
Woo, we are zooming. Okay, I'm proud of us. Topic 3. Okay, so we touched on DEI legislation coming through and stuff. This is one, Greg's going to lead this up because this is one Greg wanted to talk about. But we've heard a lot about how DEI really benefited white women the most.
Sure.
Right? But does that mean that it didn't benefit black folks at all? So how do we feel? Did DEI work? Does it work?
I personally don't think it works. I was totally against it from the start. Even when I had spoken with Curtis Hill, who that was one of the first things he led with in his campaign, that he was going to remove the office of the DEI office or department or whatever in the state. And for me, I I look at it and I say, everything that we've put into play that was supposed to be inclusive never happened. And it's almost like we've become professional whiners. And then we get in front of things, and then the statistics come out and say, you didn't benefit from this. Mm-hmm. And then we put together movements to fight for something that we didn't benefit.
But do you think it doesn't work, or do you think it's not implemented effectively?
I think that when you realize that, only 4% of Black people were put in a position as far as leadership positions for DEI, and we'll put those stats out there. But when you realize that 4% were put in positions to 4%
country,
4% period country.
Period.
Yeah,
okay.
and 4% out of all the DEI leadership jobs, 4% were Black people. So when I look at it and I'm like, this is an interesting thing, then I'm like, it may have helped somewhere. I don't know where. But, we have a city that tends to have celebrations with nothing. We tend to have, the diversity champions. And then when you realize that Black people are still not being employed, Black people still are, 3 out of 10 Black people own a home. You realize that all these things that say, well, no, there's really no diversity. If we look at the Savvy report, it proves, the Savvy report on racial equity proves that we're not involved in this city. So why are Black people having award shows and wearing gowns and renting places that don't hire Black people to celebrate?
So obviously, I agree with a lot of what you said. However, I disagree that DEI just doesn't work and that it isn't worthwhile to continue to implement and work on. I just think we haven't always seen it done well. You know what I mean? But I know Wildstyle has.
My
brother. Too. No, I actually agree with a lot of what Greg said. Like, DEI was not working as intended,
right?
And it wasn't benefiting as many Black folks as it should have.
Yeah.
But when you look at the statistics, I know everybody was like, "Oh, well, white women are the biggest beneficiaries of DEI." Well, they're also statistically the biggest beneficiary of air.
Sure.
Well,
in America, because they are the biggest population group.
Yeah.
Beyond white men, beyond Black people, altogether, men, women, non-binary, everything. There's almost 3 times as many white women as there are Black people.
Wow.
And so, yeah, they were always going to be the bigger beneficiaries. But when you look at the federal job statistics, Black people had, I would say, like 4 or 5% beyond, like we make up 12% of the U.S. population, almost 13%. Yeah. We had like 17 or 18% of federal jobs.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. So it did work in that case.
It worked in the federal government.
Sure.
It probably worked a bit in the state government. And then when it comes to private companies, I will say, it's hit and miss, and there was a whole lot more missing going on than.
And I think there's more to DEI too than the term DEI, right? So like we saw this stuff really start with like the civil rights movement and things like that. When we seen affirmative action, when we seen things like this. This was all DEI work.
Sure.
So.
It still failed.
But I will say this. What's fascinating is, that the lawsuit against Harvard that ended up ending the affirmative action for like schools and stuff like that. I think what was interesting was I just read an article not that long ago that said that there were some Asian students that were about to sue again because after they got rid of the affirmative action, their numbers went down, but Black people's numbers stayed the same. So it seemed like...
What's that thing about face-eating leopards?
Man.
I just wish we would get on board with the real fight, which is equity.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when people ask me, well, what, it always bothers me when people say, well, how do we fix it? I say equity. And they say, what does that look like? And I'm like, that's wild to me. Because when you realize that it's about equity, it's like I'm involved. I'm at the party. I'm dancing. I'm involved, period. Then we start talking. But as long as we keep having these things that are Band-Aids and then controlled by the people that actually,
did the harm.
I say that, people who did the harm are controlling it. Most of the DEI initiatives, I stand on this, should have been contracted as opposed to inside hires, because they pretty much hired the people who would absolutely say nothing to make change.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's true. That's true. I think too, when we think about it too, you know how every time they talk about like equality versus equity and stuff, they always show you the little picture of the three people at the fence and giving the people the different crates so that they can see over or whatever. Yep. But there was one where I saw, was it Justice? When Justice came in, it removed the fence.
Right, I love that.
It was like, yes. It was like,
the fence.
Like to your point, it's like, or we can just remove all the barriers legislatively and stuff that have gotten in people's way. Like they actively, intentionally got in folks' way. Like,
and that's the thing, Samantha. Like we have some wild stuff in the city. We have emancipation services. We have all sorts of stuff. Emancipated means the barriers are removed.
Yeah.
And again, we celebrate a lot of stuff. And that's why I say words matter so much. Because if we're celebrating emancipation, if we're celebrating, they've taken Juneteenth and made it the day of freedom. If our minds never say, hold on, let's stop this. Until this really happens, let's remove all of that and get back into the fight.
Yeah.
Because right now, I think we're being kind of governed to not get in a fight because of how the wording is.
Yeah. And I think, too, because of all of like the conflicting opinions and data and stuff that we see, I think a lot of us get paralyzed, too. Like, I don't even know the first step. I don't even know what I should do, not do, whatever. And I ain't gonna lie to you. Like, I'm in a space right now where I'm moving completely by my convictions.
Sure.
Completely and totally by my convictions. So if something just don't sit right with me, I'm not doing it. I'm not supporting it.
That's me.
I'm not. It just whatever. And it kind of takes us into our next topic too. Our 4 is a 24-hour boycott. So a lot of us seen the post that was going around telling black folks to do a 24-hour boycott. I ain't gonna hold you. As soon as I seen it, I was like, y'all, what's 24 hours gonna do? Because all this gonna happen. We just gonna wait to buy whatever we was gonna buy
it on Thursday.
Yeah,
or Saturday.
I'm not gonna buy it Wednesday. I'm gonna buy it Thursday instead.
I mean, first of all, black people, and in full transparency, I did share the post out of solidarity with some folks. I have to speak my truth, and I mean, honest to God, part of it is we suck at boycotts.
Yeah.
For a couple of systemic reasons is that we don't own any of these businesses. We don't have an alternative. So if I don't shop with Jeff Bezos today, I'm probably going to have to shop with him by the end of the week.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
I think that when I look at the 24-hour boycott, I wish I had something that said what the end result is.
Yeah. Or a list of demands that we were going to.
Yeah. Yes.
I've said that many times. Like if you're going to do anything, you need to have demands.
Yeah. Yes. And then on top of that, it's like, okay, so you don't have an end result. Then you don't buy anything. Well, I'm going to say this. I'm going to go to black businesses. I will not stifle black businesses to partake in this boycott. It's like, if you want to really have a boycott, target who you boycotting, have a reason that you're boycotting, and then be like, okay, when this is done, this is what we want to happen.
Part of that is my point, though. As a black small business entrepreneur, right?
Why am I going
24 hours without income is not going to kill my business.
No.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying even as somebody who offers services that has my own business, like there's 24 hours is not going to shut down, stop nothing. It's not going to intimidate anything. Now, if we said we're going to boycott spending with these particular things until these demands are met, that I feel like is different.
But that requires work. When you talk about the Montgomery bus boycott, they didn't just tell everybody not to ride the bus. They went and provided cabs. They connected people. They got, I think, Lloyd's of London to do the insurance for the jitney cabs. Like this was a very people
strategic.
Strategic. Yes. They did work, and we're not getting that type of organizing now.
Yeah.
I really wish we would look at the return on investment in anything we do. And if we decide to do a boycott, I would boycott any organization, and they've done a great job of hiding it. But if you look at their statistics or their numbers and find out that there are no black people in leadership, if you realize that black people are not being hired, black people are not being promoted, those are the companies that we need to go after, as opposed to just this randomness. And the other thing is this: if it's about return on investment, what we put in is what we get out. We better have a boycott on Sunday.
Now, hold on. You messing up the church's money, but
I'm just calling it like it is. If we looking at return on investment, we need to have boycotts on Sunday.
Now, hold on, because it's not everybody. Because some folks are doing great work.
Just saying.
There's some churches that are doing great work.
There's no greater institution in our community that takes more money and gives less back. None.
I don't have the stats on that.
Yeah, we just gonna have to move on with that one.
Yeah, I don't have the stats on that.
No, I mean, he's right.
Need your rent paid.
I don't have the stats on that. I will say this though. We can't act like there isn't black churches that don't help though.
They ain't got ticket houses no more.
so I already automatically know his numbers is right.
I'm trying to tell
Y'all
you.
gonna get us canceled episode 1.
Listen,
Verse
the black briefing.
Oh Lord. Okay, next topic. The city county council might not confirm mayor's pick. I don't know if y'all seen it. I'm gonna link it in the description. But when Deputy Mayor of Public Health and Safety, Lena Hill, went before the Committee of Public Safety and Criminal Justice with the City County Council, they gave her a time. Okay.
Oh, I enjoyed every bit of it.
And it is, once you go to the link, it's Proposal 25. And you can listen to the whole excerpt of just that part of the meeting. Yeah. It was crazy. Like watching it, I had so many thoughts and feelings, if I'm being honest. I think the chairman of that council, which is Leroy Robinson, I think in an attempt to try to be fair, it came off as if he was trying to protect her and like keep them from pressing about information, but they were asking her about harassment allegations and stuff.
That Leroy would do that? That's incredible. I'm sorry.
He's being sarcastic.
Sarcasm is on high.
The
sarcasm is on high.
But
shocking.
I don't know the meaning.
No, brother counselor. We've had enough of that question. Move on.
Yeah, it was. Is
rough. The building on fire? No, enough of that.
And she kept saying she didn't know to respond, but then Councilman Carlos Perkins jumps in. It's like, we had a meeting a week ago where I told you about.
I told you about these complaints,
about
these allegations.
Complaints and allegations.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be the first time somebody came in there and talked to that counselor about what was going on at OPHS or things weren't right, because I know for a fact I've done it.
I'll say this too. So she was going before them 6 months after her appointment. So I reached out to a counselor to ask them, like, what's the normal time period? And they said it's written 45 days.
Yeah.
45 days. They were saying there is some wiggle room for interims because sometimes it takes longer to get somebody in.
How long she been there?
But 6 months.
Like, you've been there long enough to literally create a culture.
Of fear.
Yeah.
Of fear, apparently. That's what they're saying anyway.
Of fear.
I mean,
you've been there long enough, and then you have to just imagine how backwards this is. You've been in a position 6 months, long enough to create a culture, and then you have to sit in front of the people to determine if you should get the job.
So Michael
get the job or not?
To me, one of like the most critical moments of this whole situation was Michael Paul Hart asked her, okay, 30, 60, 90-day plans. What was your plans for those benchmarks? And then also asked her about KPIs, key performance indicators, which for those who don't know, those are usually specific, very specific things. I'm going to increase this by this percent. I'm going to decrease this by this percent, or we're spending X million dollars on this particular initiative. I want to redirect that funds to here where it could be more, effective, blah, blah. Those are the kind of things that you usually hear.
What do you hear?
I'm not gonna hold y'all. Like, she sounded incredibly unprepared.
What did she say the plan?
There was no plan.
There was no plan.
There was no plan. She said she's still learning. 6 months.
I'm here.
Somebody froze to death last week.
No.
That's what is OPHS? What is one of their jobs?
Public health and safety.
It is to address homelessness.
Absolutely.
Jesus.
But that's the thing, though. When you look, and my thing was when they had her resume.
Yeah.
They looked at her resume. Nothing
Yeah.
on her resume basically said that she was qualified to be the deputy mayor of OPHS, right? I'll say this, and this is me coming across the aisle. I've seen a lot of appointees, and I've often asked, how? And we don't question these appointees as if these positions are not important.
They all are.
How are you the deputy mayor of neighborhoods if you're never in the neighborhood?
This is one of the things that I'm curious about too, is like what the mayor is never there either. At these appointment hearings, like at these confirmation hearings, rather. At these confirmation hearings.
Then they would ask him questions.
They're not there. But I'm saying but this is my question though. If you can appoint people and then you're not held accountable to justify that appointment in confirmation, how then? You like what incentive, what point of accountability do we have to say, like, why did you, to me, it makes all the sense in the world to have him there so that in that committee they can say, Mr. Mayor,
why did it take 6 months?
Why did it take 6 months? It feels like she's unqualified. It feels like she's unprepared. Is this something you're ready to take responsibility for as your appointee?
If you're playing party politics, and if your party has a majority, then you expect them to take who you pick. But if you're a person who says
the city county council is supposed to be the checks and balances for the
exactly, but are they the checks and balances, or are they the minions?
And they checks and balances right now, baby. They checking balances.
But this is unprecedented. This
has
never happened before.
It's never
balancing.
Happened. And I think
y'all should check out the way that they came at DPW too.
Yeah,
about the snow removal stuff.
True.
They are checking and balancing.
I think you've got some new blood in there. I think you got some people in there who are, one of the things that I would urge to the listeners and our viewers is make sure that these people that you elect uphold your voice.
Yeah. That's a fact.
It's like when it's all said and done, this autonomous type of government that we've allowed to happen where people are making decisions that are based on the party and their benefit.
Yeah.
It's like you need to have people who are actually there representing your community to the degree that you guys start making progress.
Really. I posted this not that long ago, but I told people, so we talk about the supermajority in the state house all the time, but I encourage folks to go on IGA's website and actually look up what your elected officials, what bills they're actually proposing.
Sure.
See what they're actually putting out there. Because that's another thing. Like, yes, it's hard to get something heard and especially through, right, when you're outnumbered in such an incredible way. But at the same time, if they're not even putting up quality legislation that you're interested in anyway, if they're putting up legislation about cursive handwriting in school and you don't give a crap about that matters. Like, you need to make sure that you at least have somebody in that seat that's trying to address your concerns and your interests. But, okay. We're going to go on to the next topic. Again, y'all, we're going to do our best to stay as unbiased as possible. But come on now, this stuff is ridiculous. And I can't speak to whether she's qualified or not. It's just not my place. However, I can say she was incredibly unprepared for that meeting. And that to me is a team failure, not just a her failure. So
Agreed.
I think y'all should tighten that up.
Yeah.
Topic number 6. And this is Wildstyle's topic.
Yeah.
Housing. How bad is the IHA situation? We know that they just welcomed a new CEO, Yvonne A. Bean, on February 17th.
That was my birthday.
How are you feeling? Oh, that was your birthday?
It was,
they gave you a present.
Well, it's not a present like giving an impossible job to another black woman.
That's a fact.
This all hinges upon Mayor Joe Hogsett.
Yeah.
The resources are not there, and they have not been there to turn IHA around. At least 25,000 people depend on it for housing. We have a Section 8 waiting list of over 8,000.
Wow.
And people that are being evicted because IHA has not been able to pay their landlords or even keep in contact with them.
Wow.
And so now a Section 8 voucher used to be, if you had one, would be like everybody wanted you. now people don't want it because they don't know if they're going to get paid.
Lord Jesus.
So it's a mess. It's driving our housing and homelessness crisis, both of them.
How do you think this impacts, like on a larger scale? I know it's there's the issue with housing, but I think that when you look at the part where we're failing per se, how does this impact? How do you think this impacts us from a degree of population, black population being inside the city of Indianapolis, and they're diminishing at a rapid rate?
I mean, I know people that have moved to Hamilton County and not super expensive homes and they wanted to be in Indianapolis and could not afford it.
Wow.
So there's a lot of stuff. I know there are people that were on public housing and they've all gone to South Bend or other states to get public housing and everything.
Wow.
So how do you think this impacts us in the future having a black mayor? And do you think that the housing issue plays a role in decreasing our population so that makes it impossible for us to ever
It's
have
ethnic cleansing. I'm just going to say it.
Preach.
And unfortunately, I don't think if we don't have a black mayor that's about improving the quality of life of black people, I don't think that's going to be helpful.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Like we have to, the bar has to be higher than just being black now.
Exactly.
It
agree.
just does. We just need more from you. We need more from you. And I think, and I know there was a petition going around for the mayor about, because you were saying tell me again, because I don't want to get it wrong, but there's some things that are completely and totally in his control.
A lot of it is, the biggest issue is that now that they wiped out the board that was doing some crazy stuff, and they've gotten rid of all the people that were mismanaging the money, but now there's no money, and which means like literally they had they've been like manually trying to handle 25,000 people without computers.
Oh, Lord.
Because they had a ransomware attack over 2 years ago. They got the data. They were actually scamming people in the system, and they actually scammed some of them out of money, posing as IHA. So they haven't had a working system. They don't have enough inspectors. They don't have enough caseworkers. The mayor needs to get philanthropy, all the philanthropy and corporate people on the phone, and see what they can put in right now to go get consultants to help run it, reorganize it, and get everything up and running. Or this is just going to continue to happen. And I don't care who you put in there. The federal government said that they were not, this is under Biden, that they were not going to give money to fix the problem. They'll give, like, if we fix it, we get whatever a housing agency gets, but they're not going to give more money to fix our problems because we messed it up.
Yeah. Wow. So to know a lot about the stuff that Wildstyle's outlining, like some of the issues that IHA has had, Mirror Indy did a series on IHA, and oh my God, I mean, just one thing after another. They just really dug into it. So I'll make sure I link that too. But make sure if you guys are passionate about housing or you want to know more about these kind of issues, make sure you read through those articles because they're super informative. We're going to move on to the next topic, which is 7. So this is party reorganization year for the Republican and the Democrat parties. Reorganization just means we're voting in new leadership. We're voting in new leadership at a county, district, and state level. And it'll go in that order as well because they each vote for the next, right? So county leaders, then we'll vote district, then vote for on the SECs for the respective parties for that state's leadership. So here locally, it's getting thick with the Marion County Democrat Party. There is 3 candidates for chair, so we get a black woman regardless. It will be Dana Black, Mila Eldridge, or Annette Johnson. For vice chair, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 folks. So yeah, I'll make sure I put a link in there so you guys can read all of those. There's a ton. There's 5 secretary candidates, and then LaDonna and a woman named Sherry Lynn Himes for treasurer. So Make sure you guys, if you are a Democrat PC or vice PC, you have a vote on March 1st for that reorg meeting that is at Marriott East out here in the FAR on 21st Street. So that's where you would go and vote for those folks. Obviously, I'm not going to endorse anybody on here, but I will say this. Mila Eldridge is the current leader. And she has been since she took over for Kate Sweeney Bell, like 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago or so. And so this is what I will encourage you to do. That if you don't like the direction that's been going for the last 3.5 years, it just does not make sense to keep the same leadership in place. So that's what I'll say about that. On the Republican side, I do not know. Mr.
It's still happening March the 1st.
Yeah. Do you know the candidates for the county?
I only know one right now offhand.
Okay.
Schmiz?
Huh?
Schmiz.
Yeah. Yep.
Schmiz is the name?
John Schmiz.
Schmiz happens.
Yeah.
And this is the person you guys think is gonna win too?
I've heard that.
I think John has some. Yeah, I think he's got. I will say this about John Schmitz: is he's outside. He's outside, and when it's all said and done, he's outside, and he's in the Mars Hill area. But he's. I mean, I've been in contact with him a lot. So,
do you know the candidates at the state level?
I don't.
State, okay. So I'll find that link and make sure we put it in the description. At the state level for Dems, I know there's Derek Camp, Karen Talion, who was a state senator, Destiny Wells, and Jennifer McCormick. I have super strong opinions about that, but I'm gonna leave it alone. These are all new people. Derek Camp he was the party chair for Allen County Dems.
Fort Wayne. Okay.
Yeah, Fort Wayne. Destiny Wells, obviously she has run for 2 statewide seats, and Jennifer McCormick ran for governor. She was just a Republican a few years ago, so there's because anyway, I was gonna say there's a lot of former Republicans or current Republicans in the Democratic Party, but they're not running for state party chair. That's some kahunas. Okay.
Oh my God!
I'm just saying. I mean, come on. What?
Hey, I'm with you.
You come straight up in this thing, and it's just like, you know what? As a matter of fact, I think I can run this whole thing.
But
I mean,
she might be able to because it couldn't get worse.
Facts. I mean, you got to look at it. I mean, when you realize that, you've got a person who was never in politics who was president twice. A lot of people are going to look at this thing differently.
It's like, what does it mean? And he was a Democrat.
So I don't need her to have political experience. That's not what I mean at all. But I do have concerns about somebody who's newly a Democrat being able to move our whole statewide party in a direction that's cohesive for Democrat values. I think spend a little more time being a Democrat, sis, because that's tough for me. I'm sorry, that's tough for me.
You present a good case about that.
That's tough for me, but that's all I'm gonna say about that. I just wanted to put that on folks' radar that if you are a PC or vice PC, Democrat or Republican, y'all are voting for your party reorganization. So if you want to see a change in the direction that your party is moving and you are in either one, make sure you go out there and vote and make sure you're impacting those leaders. Now, our next topic, this is our longer topic that we'll talk about. And
get some water.
Yeah, get some water. Get some water. But we are going to talk about black men. Black men. And our topic, I named it Black Men Come Back.
Oh, no.
Because we need y'all. So that's one. And but also, so lately we've had a lot of conversations about how do we get black men back into politics, back into leadership positions, back into all of these different things. We know we kind of saw this drop coming as we saw the gap in education, especially like college education, stuff like that, grow for black women, especially. Wildstyle kind of pointed to it a little bit earlier with bringing in a black woman with IHA. Black women have been like the go-to for organizations that are in a mess, and for the last several years, it's been a whole lot of organizations that are in a mess. But a lot of us are really in this space are really interested in really noting that our black men, especially young black men who aren't gatekeepers, who aren't harmful and unsafe human beings, right? being in places of leadership and power. Like, how do we get them back, and what has happened?
When I talk about I'm going to talk about the Democratic Party. Is it that they should quit pushing them away and like doing as much dirt on them and as they possibly can?
How are they pushing them away? Tell me that.
It's some of it's the gaslighting that you get labeled as a troublemaker for asking questions that they should have been asking themselves. A lot of that. And when I look at what Slating and the party did for party leadership and selecting not everybody, but a lot of black men that are not very well known in their communities, that are not that's that one spot.
Oh,
that are not very well known in their community, not necessarily respected, and haven't done anything to earn that type of trust and respect. I think it's been calculated. I think that the party does this to intentionally find black men that are beholden on the infrastructure and the money that could put them in office so that they could control them. And then that kind of destroyed it for, they don't want anybody else that they can't control.
I feel it. I'll say this too. I think historically, it's tough to look back and see our older generations of black leaders, especially men. Mm-hmm. It's hard to see where they paved the way for younger black men who weren't on BS. You know what I mean? Or to your point, that they didn't have to control or something like that. Like, there was a whole lot of talk about when we ran Autumn Carter last spring against John Bartlett. There was a lot of talk that John Bartlett, he has somebody that he's groomed. He has somebody that he's groomed. And my pushback to that was always, he's been in the office for 17 years. He should have 17 somebodies he's groomed. Right? I mean, what? Like, really? Like, because it's not about control. It's about uplifting a whole next generation, not an individual, not somebody that you just feel like you have like your talents into. Somebody that can effectively lead. Somebody's, right? A lot of people that can effectively lead. So but I know that you had points too, and I want to hear them.
I think that black men have not left. Mm-hmm. I think that valuable black men have not left. Valuable black men are thriving every single day. I think that valuable black men have been cast aside.
Yeah.
As a black man with a degree, as a black man with no felonies, as a black man who has held a career for 25 years, as a black man who's going to get up every day and represent a person who is not afraid to speak up about the issues in our community, I know for a fact they don't want no parts of me.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to everybody, I switched parties because of it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it was like,
did you vote for Trump?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay.
I voted for Cornel West.
Okay, Cornel.
But wrote it in.
Yeah.
I was like, neither candidate really stood out to me, nonetheless. Yeah. But I remember, from committees, asking to be on committees, being overlooked, always having to beg and ask to be involved. It makes no sense for someone who has credentials to have to beg.
What's interesting too, when I look at you, especially like you and Wildstyle, right? People will talk about like, I don't know, like how like crazy folks are, or how like how direct or off the deep end, but it's just like, or this is an incredibly frustrating space for people who just give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like it's very hard to be quiet, and we try to pick our places, but at the same time, it's just like it's absolute buffoonery everywhere, and you like explode.
White people would not have a passive white man in leadership. They wouldn't call me crazy if I were Caucasian. At the end of the day, they say he represents. He stands for our culture. He represents us. He presents it. He don't back down from it. We have now become what they fear in our own backyard.
You've said some wild stuff.
So
I mean,
have,
let's be.
But I think that once
be
people
honest.
chew on it, they say it was direct.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have said it, but
Yeah.
I would say this. If what I said was so wild or crazy, I probably wouldn't get the calls. The senator's gonna call, the mayor's office is gonna call, the governor's office calls, the council calls. Why you say my name? I'm like, I thought I was the ineffective person over here, but nonetheless, my phone blows up. And when it's all said and done, this community has no idea how many times counselors will call me and say, can you write me some questions for this if the chief comes in? Or if I have to talk about this, can you give me some pointers so that I can be able to communicate this for somebody?
Yeah.
Or how many times I've wrote so much stuff for so many people and people have no idea that it's me.
Because you're necessary. That's what when we try to throw away, like, this is why I didn't like the way that the Democrat caucus and the council voted out Jesse Brown out of the caucus.
Sure.
The reason why I didn't like that is because whether you agree with it or not, whether you like it or not, he is a very real, not just representation, but reflection of real community folks, how they
district.
feel. Yes, his district, how they think about things, their perspective, and the approach that nobody likes. That is an approach that his constituents voted for. So it's like, even for you, like, we don't approach things the same way. We don't always move the same way, say the same things about the same situations. However, I believe your perspective and stuff is valuable and needed in the community. And I feel like that's what we have to get away from, is thinking we have to force out anything that we think doesn't fit.
Sure.
It's like, no, that just becomes a representation of what you can't represent.
I mean, but if everybody's thinking alike, nobody's thinking.
That's a fact.
And when we look at just the fact that if I could sit in a council meeting and Cambridge asks for $350 million and we unanimously vote on that, but then we have all heck break out when we vote about food deserts.
That's a fact.
So when I look at it and I
was
say,
in that meeting,
I was there, and when I look at this and I'm saying, okay, who are you representing? And so when you are open and honest about this, and then when you have the platform and the following, it makes you even crazier because they're like, people actually listen to this person.
Yes.
But when it's all said and done, I say this now. This same community would rid themselves of Dr. King, would rid themselves of Malcolm X, would rid themselves of James Baldwin. They would look at those people right now and say, this person's nonsense or crazy, and they would get rid of them and then wonder why we're in the situation we're in. I said this to both of you. No black man has ran Expo since the dude who created it died.
Yeah, that's wild.
And then you wonder, and then you say, but it's dying.
Yeah.
But no one will step up and say, okay, well, this person has given it to her friend and this person remains the top consultant for it. So how is it that
our patience,
but where are the black men?
Our patience and grace for ineffective leadership is like crazy to me.
Ineffective black leadership.
Ineffective black leadership. And this is my question. Well, I mean, in case of there's some
there are very ineffective white people too.
But with that though, I'm so is it laziness? Like, do we just not feel like fighting it?
Who, us or them?
Well, I mean, when I say us, I mean in general, like the entire community.
They don't know.
You have white supremacy behind this.
Facts.
When you look at a lot of these black leaders that are ineffective were chosen specifically for the ineffectiveness.
Oh well, yeah.
Or the skeletons that they have in the closet, like, because some of them are controlled by the skeletons that they have in the closet. That's another thing, and that's why you had so many predators in places, because they knew they could control them with that.
Man,
when you look at the number of black Democrats here that die in office.
Oh my God!
You don't see white Democrats dying in office like that,
or handing over seats, as if they belong to them and not to the people.
I mean, but this is a culture. You've got white supremacy on one end, and then you have the greedy black people that they found that don't want to turn it over. They want to talk about how that the new generation doesn't care, but that's not true.
That's not true.
They don't want to deal with y'all.
That's a fact.
But a new generation has been created right under our noses. There is one.
Mm-hmm.
We see them.
It is. They're doing it. They're working.
It's a total clique. We see them, but we see that they've been groomed to do the same thing.
Boy.
It's like the shame on us and I say this, shame on us, because when you think about it, most of the black organizations that were created because of racism, because of white supremacy, are now ran by white supremacy.
Yeah.
All of them. And they have the name black. They have the name urban.
Yeah.
They have all these names in them that represent us. But when you look at the movement, you say, no black person that has the sense that God gave a kangaroo would even make this move. But they make them, and then Greg Merriweather becomes crazy because he calls it out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm called crazy because I caught out a freaking predator in the state house.
Sure.
And I'm crazy for saying that this person is a predator. But you know what I mean? Like, I think that's
that
wild.
everybody knew about. That was my thing, including the Republicans, which is why he was so ineffective.
But you let it go on.
And that's like, why are we, and this is my thing too, why do we continue to protect folks that are not only a predator, but also ineffective? So it's like, that seems like the perfect excuse to go ahead and switch him out for somebody who could actually do the job well. What are we scared?
But when you don't have enough people, and I think that's how you get the target on you, when you don't have enough people talking about it.
Yeah.
When it's the ones and twos, it's easy to say, well, nobody's going to deal with that person and we shouldn't deal with that person. But when it becomes a community and the community says that's a problem, which we used to do.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, and this is bad. One of the worst things that's ever happened to us is money. Because when it's all said and done, we will turn our backs on each other to be in the presence of a dollar, even though we know it hurts us.
You know what? So a young black leader in our city, and he wanted to run for office. He said people was pressuring him to run for office. And I was like, no, they don't. I don't even know why they're saying that, but we would need time. We would need to build this, blah, blah. Like, I'm giving him actual strategy, right? And then I asked him, because he was saying all this stuff because he was challenging me on it. And I'm telling him, like, you can't get through for that seat in this condition. Like, we would have to build this, do this, blah, blah, blah. And I told him, I was like, let me ask you this. I said, what would they do if they wanted to stop you? How do you think they would stop you? Because they would bring up my past. No, they won't. Mm-mm. They'll give you a job.
They'll give you a job.
Yeah.
They will give you a job.
Every leader.
That's what they will do. And I don't think we realize how much we're being controlled by opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
We had a black deputy mayor who used to be loud, got in trouble. Next thing you know, took the voice, put him in a position. He's not even in that position anymore, but put him in a position you never heard him fight again. I've seen it happen 1,000 times.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, we have to like keep our eyes sharp, that these things, it doesn't always look like a bad thing. Sometimes those reins are being cloaked by opportunity or a job.
Almost all the time. And you have to look at those things like, if you have to shut up what you're doing, then automatically, and they never offer you the ability to run something that's going to really matter.
And it's like, we really want you for this thing, but you'd have to stop. You can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we
can't do that.
Just think about just even certain jobs that some people wouldn't take, whether it be the violence interrupters, people that they know have some background. You look at DPW. People that they know have some background. So why would you come in here and fight for a raise? And they haven't, $5 raises in the past 20 years?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, they got to get in all the pictures with the mayor and smile like they're happy about the job. Come on, man.
One of the young leaders.
The system is structured tough. It's tough.
Somebody was telling me too, one of the young leaders of DPW is the daughter of Hogsett's largest funder.
Sure.
I'll have to find the receipts for that.
I already know who it is.
Oh, okay. So, I'll find the receipts for that and make sure I take it.
Probably not
So now she's taking over? The daughter's taking over?
She's not taking over, but she's in leadership. So she was one of the ones they were grilling. There was two of them they were grilling, both the young folks.
She black?
No, she's white.
Oh, well, it on another level, it happened with another daughter from a leader who was black. And same thing.
Well,
but ineffective leadership, again, where they put a person in play that's willing to take the money and they will do anything not to advance our people simply because they're getting a check.
Well, let me say this on our topic. Come back, black men.
Let us in.
Even if you're, even if almost like, even if you're, even if you're outspoken, even if you don't know everything, even if, whatever, you feel like I don't really know the first move, because that's what they tell me a lot in the community. Says I don't even know, like, none of this. I've been this, whatever. No, just come out, right? Watch the podcast, interact with us, come to Power to the Polls events, come to stuff that's worthwhile. Go to stuff. Look, I even go to stuff that I don't necessarily agree with, just to check in to see, are they on something or not? Oh, okay, still not cool. Right. But just start doing that. Our last little rundown, we have 3 things we're going to hit really, really quick. The first one is a judge blocks the release of abortion records. Thank God. There was a mandate that came down from Braun wanting to release abortion records, and that's critical because they're trying to criminalize you getting an abortion. Sure. So that's huge for women. We definitely don't need any kind of charges because we got an abortion.
I agree.
It's wild because we got healthcare. Okay. Second, Doge stimmies.
I ain't coming. Don't wait for it. Don't spend no money until you get into the check clear.
Doge stimmies ain't coming.
I hope they come.
As a matter of fact, they seem like they're going to end up in Tesla's hands for some government contracts.
Or SpaceX. One of
the
two.
Or SpaceX.
I need that 5 bands.
We'll link that, but keep your eyes out. He's probably not coming to you. Okay, last one. Alice Johnson is named Pardon Czar by Trump at the White House Black History event, or Black History Month event.
Yeah,
it's a hustle. Well, like it's.
Do you think it'll help?
I mean, it did help bring some black men over to Trump to begin with his pardons. The thing is, it's like most of your boys was at the county that has got a felony, so it didn't help very many people, but. Right. It does, It helps the narrative of talking about, well, Trump did do some things for black men. It just nobody that but whatever.
I think that's a new part of the hustle in politics is pardons. Mm-hmm. When you start hearing like Big Meech's brother got a pardon. When you start hearing those things, so then the ground level starts talking politics at that point.
Yep.
And when you start getting the ground level, start talking politics. Oh, he released my homie. Oh, my man got his time cut. So all of a sudden, it's like there becomes this loyalty because it's almost like street level loyalty. Yeah. And it's like, so then you start bringing more people to the table to even if those people, let's just say, are not voters. Just think about somebody in their family who is a voter who is now like, well, they brought my son home.
Mm-hmm. My uncle, he came home from because Trump brought my uncle home.
And it's the power of first too. Like if my first like real conversation about politics is about this one person letting folks out that look like me, that was that's tough to overcome.
Agreed.
Because you don't understand the rest of the policy, but you do understand somebody not being in jail no more.
That's
relatable.
Fact. That's a fact. We got to do better. Lord Jesus, we got to do better. So this concludes our first episode.
Hey,
it feels
glad
good.
About it. It feels great.
We're going to be back here next month in March, obviously, to run down, I'm sure, plenty of things will happen. As a matter of fact, I'm sure for the next 4 years, we're going to have plenty of things to talk about.
Yeah, too much.
Can we, and since this is our first episode, I would like to ask this, if we can figure out an avenue for people that want to ask us some questions that we may be able to answer. I think that'd add some flair to the show.
One of the easiest things to do is to put your questions in the comment section of this video. That's whether you see this video or this clip on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, wherever you see it at, drop those comments there. All of us three will be seeing those and grabbing those. You can also message any one of us. We are all on most social media platforms. We check them. Yeah, except for X. I'm off X too. Oh, look at us.
All right.
But on everything else.
I haven't closed it yet, but I'm not on there.
Oh, okay. But okay, we thought we had Greg. We forgot he was a Republican for a second. Just playing. But it's definitely connect with us. Send us questions. Let us know what you want to hear, our perspective on what you want us to talk about. We're going to do our best to run down everything else that's happening near us of course. So thank you so much. Please like, share, subscribe to this video. You can find this video at Power to the Polls on YouTube. It may change soon, but for right now, that's what it is. And then on our individual social medias, which is Wildstyle over here, Samantha Douglas, Gregory Merriweather, because you have Gregory on there, right? You have your government. Okay, he has his government on there. Greg, it's probably the Republican again. That's the government. Okay, anyway. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Come back again. See y'all.
Yeah.